We had just stepped out of my sister's room, and I still felt a little embarrassed. The advice she had given us was unexpected, yet deep down I knew it was for our own good. The best part was that she wasn't judgmental at all. When she found out about me and Guru, she didn't react harshly or negatively. Instead, she calmly talked to us, tried to understand us, and guided us in the right way. That made everything feel a little easier. Guru looked at me with a soft smile and said, "So, what do you think? Should we go to your room now? Your sister has already given permission." I hesitated for a moment and replied, "Yes, she did. But still, we should be a little careful, shouldn't we?" Guru laughed lightly and said, "You think too much. Come on, let's go. I'll explain everything to you properly." His playful tone made me smile despite my nervousness. Instead of going straight into the room, we ended up walking onto the rooftop where my room was located. The night was calm, and the cool breeze made everything feel peaceful. Guru suggested going inside, but I stopped him and said, "You just had dinner. Let's walk for a bit. We're not going to sleep right away anyway." He rolled his eyes jokingly and said, "You never understand, do you?" I gently replied, "No, it's not like that. I just want us to spend some time together, talk, understand each other better. That way, our bond will grow stronger." He paused for a moment, then nodded. "You're right," he said. "If I want to truly know you, I need to spend time with you." We started talking more openly after that. There was a comfort between us that I had never felt before. Guru suddenly teased me, asking about my past. "So tell me honestly, how many lovers did you have before me?" I stayed quiet for a moment, not knowing how to respond. He laughed and said, "What happened? Are you counting?" I lightly hit him and said, "Stop joking." Our laughter echoed softly under the open sky. Slowly, our conversation became deeper. We talked about feelings, fears, and things we had never shared with anyone else. There was something beautiful about that moment. Just the two of us under the moonlight, learning about each other. As we talked, Guru slowly moved closer to me. He held my hand gently, his fingers tracing over mine in a way that made my heart race. I could feel the warmth of his touch, and for a moment, I forgot everything else. His presence felt safe, comforting, and yet exciting. I didn't pull away. Instead, I let myself stay in that moment. The silence between our words became meaningful, filled with unspoken emotions. I could sense that he felt the same way too. The night grew quieter, and the distance between us disappeared. Guru's voice softened as he spoke, and I could feel the intensity in his eyes. I realized that this wasn't just a casual connection anymore. There was something real growing between us, something deeper than just attraction. It was understanding, trust, and a kind of love that felt new yet strangely familiar. Standing there on the rooftop, I knew that whatever was happening between us would change everything. Just as things were becoming more intense, I felt a sudden uneasiness, like someone might be around. I tried to ignore it first, thinking it was just my imagination, but something didn't feel right. My heart started beating faster, and I glanced around, trying to see if anyone was nearby. Guru didn't notice anything and stayed lost in the moment, but I couldn't shake off that feeling. It was as if the peaceful night was about to turn into something unexpected. And that's when everything began to shift. The moment that uneasy feeling settled in my chest, everything around me seemed to slow down. The soft breeze that once felt comforting now carried a strange tension. I gently pulled my hand away from Guru and looked around again, trying to figure out what was bothering me so much. "Guru, I think someone's here," I whispered, my voice slightly shaky. But he didn't take it seriously at first. He smiled and said, "You're overthinking again. There's no one here." Still, my instincts refused to calm down. My eyes scanned the rooftop, the shadows stretching along the walls under the pale moonlight. That's when I heard it, a faint sound, like someone clearing their throat. My heart skipped a beat. Before I could react properly, I pushed Guru slightly away from me. This time, he noticed the seriousness in my expression. "What happened?" he asked, confused. I didn't answer him right away. Instead, I focused on the direction where the sound came from. Near the staircase that led to the rooftop, there was a figure standing still. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. My mind went blank and my body felt frozen. Guru quickly stood up straight and adjusted his shirt, while I hurriedly fixed mine as well. Neither of us spoke. The silence between us became heavy, filled with fear and uncertainty. I slowly took a step forward, my legs trembling. Guru stood beside me now, but even he seemed unsure about what to do. As I moved closer, the figure became clearer under the dim light. And then, in that single moment, my world turned upside down. It was my brother-in-law. I felt like the ground beneath me had disappeared. My thoughts scattered, my heartbeat racing uncontrollably. Out of all the people in the world, it had to be him. I couldn't even lift my eyes properly to face him. Shame, fear, and confusion flooded my mind all at once. Guru, on the other hand, tried to act normal, though I could tell he was shaken too. My brother-in-law spoke first, his tone surprisingly calm. "Why did you stop? You can continue." I didn't say anything. His words only made things worse. I didn't know what to say. My lips moved, but no words came out. I lowered my gaze, unable to meet his eyes. My voice finally came out, barely audible. "It's not what you think," I said, though even I knew how weak that sounded. He gave a slight, almost sarcastic smile and replied, "Really?" Because it looked exactly like what I think. His words weren't loud, but they carried enough weight to make my chest tighten. I felt completely exposed, like all my secrets had been laid out in front of him without my permission. I called out to Guru, hoping he would help me handle the situation. "Guru," I said quietly. He looked at me, then at his brother, and simply said, "Let's go downstairs." His calm reaction surprised me. It was as if he was trying to avoid the situation altogether. Without waiting for my response, he started walking toward the stairs. I stood there for a moment, torn between following him and staying back. But I couldn't leave things like this. Not when everything felt so uncertain. Now it was just me and my brother-in-law on the rooftop. The silence between us was unbearable. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. I tried to steady my breathing, but it wasn't working. He stepped closer to me and gently placed his hand on my shoulder. I flinched slightly, not expecting that gesture. "Relax," he said softly. "Take a deep breath. You're overreacting." But how could I not? He had just seen everything. The thought of him telling my sister terrified me. My mind immediately went to the worst possibilities. What if their relationship got affected because of me? What if everything fell apart? I'm sorry. I finally said, my voice breaking slightly. "Please don't tell anyone." It felt like I was begging, but at that moment, I didn't care about my pride. All I cared about was protecting my sister's happiness. He looked at me for a few seconds, as if analyzing my fear. Then he sighed lightly and said, "Calm down. I'm not going to tell anyone." His words brought a small sense of relief. But it didn't last long. "However," he continued, "that one word was enough to make my heart sink again." "There's something I want from you," he said, his tone changing slightly. I looked at him, confused and nervous at the same time. My mind started racing again. What could he possibly want? I didn't like where this was going, but I felt trapped. I nodded slowly and said, "Okay, I'll do whatever you say." Even as I said those words, I wasn't sure if I truly meant them, but fear had taken control over my judgment. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gave a faint smile and stepped back. "I'll tell you when the time is right," he said. That response confused me even more. Why not now? Why leave it hanging like this? But I didn't have the courage to question him. I just nodded again, silently agreeing. "Come on," he said after a moment. "Let's go downstairs." I followed him, my mind still in chaos. Every step felt heavier than the last. I didn't know what was going to happen next, but one thing was certain. Nothing would be the same after tonight. As I walked down the stairs behind him, every step felt heavier than the last. My thoughts were tangled in fear, confusion, and a strange sense of uncertainty that refused to leave me. The rooftop, which just moments ago felt like a safe and beautiful place, now felt distant, like something that belonged to another time. My heart was still racing, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't calm myself down. I kept thinking about his words. "I'll tell you when the time is right." What did that even mean? Why not now? Why leave me in this state of suspense? When we reached downstairs, everything looked normal. too normal. The lights were on, the house felt calm, and from the kitchen, I could hear faint sounds of utensils, probably my mother and sister still busy with something. It was strange how the world kept moving, as if nothing had happened, while my entire world felt like it had shifted. He walked ahead of me casually, as if nothing unusual had occurred, and I followed quietly, trying to control my expression so no one would notice anything wrong. Guru was already in the living room, sitting on the sofa, scrolling through his phone as if he had no worries at all. For a moment, I couldn't understand how he could act so normal. Our eyes met briefly, and in that single glance, I tried to read his thoughts. Was he not scared? Was he pretending? Or was he just better at hiding it than me? I slowly sat down beside him, leaving a small distance between us, careful enough so that no one would suspect anything. My brother-in-law walked past us and casually said, "You both should sleep early. It's getting late." His tone was so normal that if someone else heard it, they wouldn't think anything was wrong. But for me, every word carried a hidden meaning. I nodded without saying anything. Guru simply said, "Yeah, we will," in a relaxed voice. After that, he walked away toward his room, leaving me there with my thoughts. A few minutes later, my sister came into the room with a soft smile on her face. "What happened? Why are you both so quiet?" she asked playfully. I forced a small smile and replied, "Nothing, just tired." She didn't seem suspicious at all. Instead, she sat beside me and said, "I hope you thought about what I said earlier. Relationships are not just about feelings, they're about understanding and trust." Her words hit me differently now. Just an hour ago, they felt like simple advice, but now they carried so much weight. I nodded slowly, avoiding eye contact. "Yeah, I understand," I said softly. After a while, everyone started heading toward their rooms. The house slowly became quiet as the night deepened. I walked toward my room on the rooftop, my mind still restless. When I reached there, I saw Guru already sitting on the bed, leaning against the wall. The moment I entered, he looked up at me. This time, his expression wasn't as carefree as before. There was a seriousness in his eyes that I hadn't noticed earlier. I closed the door behind me and stood there for a moment. Neither of us spoke at first. The silence felt heavy, filled with unspoken questions. Finally, I broke it. "How can you act like everything is normal?" I asked, my voice low but filled with emotion. Guru sighed and ran his hand through his hair. "Because panicking won't fix anything," he replied. "We need to stay calm." "Calm," I repeated, almost in disbelief. He saw us everything. "And you're telling me to stay calm?" My voice wasn't loud, but it carried all the fear I had been holding inside. Guru stood up and walked closer to me. "Listen," he said gently, "my brother is not like that. If he wanted to create a problem, he would have done it right there. But he didn't. That means he's thinking, and we should do the same." I wanted to believe him, but the fear inside me was stronger than logic. "He said he wants something from me," I said quietly. Guru paused for a moment, clearly not expecting that. "What?" he asked, his tone serious now. I nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said, "he'll tell me later." Guru looked away, thinking deeply. For the first time, I could see worry on his face too. We both sat down on the bed, trying to make sense of everything. The night that started with laughter and closeness had turned into something completely different. But even in that tension, there was still something between us. Something real. Guru looked at me and said, "No matter what happens, we'll handle it together." His words were simple, but they gave me a small sense of comfort. I lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind was still restless, but slowly, exhaustion started to take over. Guru turned off the light and lay down beside me. There was a distance between us now, not physical, but emotional, created by everything that had just happened. Yet, even in that silence, I could feel his presence, steady and reassuring. As I closed my eyes, one thought kept repeating in my mind. What did he want from me? And what would happen when the time came? That night, sleep didn't come easily to me. Even though my body was tired, my mind refused to rest. I kept turning from one side to another, replaying everything that had happened on the rooftop. Every moment felt so close, so real, and then suddenly it all changed. My brother-in-law's face, his calm voice, and especially his words, "I'll tell you when the time is right," kept echoing in my head. It felt like I was stuck between fear and uncertainty, unable to move forward or go back. Beside me, Guru seemed quiet. I wasn't sure if he was asleep or just pretending, like he usually did when he didn't want to talk. The room was dark, with only a faint light coming through the window from the street outside. The silence between us felt different now. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't the same as before either. It carried the weight of something unresolved. After a long pause, I finally whispered, "Guru, are you awake?" There was a slight movement, and then he replied softly, "Yeah, I am." I turned slightly toward him, even though I could barely see his face in the darkness. "What do you think he wants?" I asked, my voice filled with hesitation. There was a short silence before he answered, "I don't know, but whatever it is, we shouldn't assume the worst." His calm tone was still there, but I could sense a hint of tension underneath. "It's easy for you to say that." I replied quietly. "You didn't hear the way he said it. It didn't feel normal." Guru sighed softly and sat up, resting his back against the wall again. "Look," he said, "we can't control what he's thinking, but we can control how we deal with it. If we panic, we'll only make things worse." I slowly sat up too, pulling my knees closer as if trying to feel some comfort. "But what if he tells my sister?" I said, the fear finally coming out clearly in my voice. "What if everything gets ruined because of me?" Guru didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached out and placed his hand gently over mine. This time, his touch wasn't playful or teasing. It was steady, reassuring. "Nothing will happen," he said firmly. "And even if something does, we'll face it together. You're not alone in this." His words felt different tonight. There was a seriousness in them that made me believe him, even if just a little. I lowered my gaze, focusing on his hand, holding mine. It felt warm, grounding me in a moment where everything else seemed uncertain. "I didn't think things would get this complicated," I admitted softly. "Everything felt so simple before, just you and me." Guru gave a faint smile, though I could barely see it. "Nothing worth having is ever simple," he said. "But that doesn't mean it's not worth it." For a while, we just sat there in silence, holding on to each other in the quiet darkness. There were no more questions, no more answers, just a shared understanding that whatever was coming next, we would have to face it together. Slowly, the tension in my chest began to ease, not completely, but enough for me to breathe a little easier. After some time, Guru lay down again and said, "Try to sleep. Tomorrow might be important." His words made me uneasy again, but I didn't argue. I lay down beside him, still thinking about everything. But this time, my thoughts were a little calmer. Maybe it was because I wasn't alone. Maybe it was because, deep down, I trusted him. Morning came sooner than I expected. The soft light of the sun filled the room, and I slowly opened my eyes. For a moment, I forgot everything, but then reality hit me again. I turned my head and saw Guru still asleep, his face calm and peaceful, as if nothing had happened. I wished I could feel the same way. I got up quietly, not wanting to wake him, and walked toward the window. The world outside looked normal. People going about their day, the usual sounds of morning life. It was strange how everything felt the same, yet so different. After a few minutes, I heard movement behind me. Guru had woken up. "You're up early," he said, stretching slightly. "Couldn't sleep properly?" I shook my head. "Not really." He nodded, as if he expected that answer. "Don't worry," he said. "We'll figure things out today." His words stayed with me as we got ready and went downstairs. The atmosphere in the house felt normal again, but now I couldn't ignore the tension inside me. Every time I heard a voice or footsteps, I felt alert. My eyes instinctively searched for my brother-in-law, wondering when he would bring up that conversation again. And then, as if the moment had been waiting for me, I finally saw him. He was sitting in the living room, calmly drinking tea, as if nothing had happened the night before. But when his eyes met mine, there was something there, a quiet, a reminder that the conversation wasn't over yet. My heartbeat quickened again. I knew, deep down, the right time he talked about was coming closer. The moment our eyes met, I felt that same uneasiness return, stronger than before. He didn't say anything right away, just looked at me for a second longer than normal, then calmly took another sip of his tea. But that brief glance was enough to remind me that nothing from last night was forgotten. It was still there, hanging between us like an invisible thread pulling tighter with every passing moment. I tried to act normal, forcing myself to walk into the room without hesitation, but inside, my thoughts were running wild. Guru walked in behind me, stretching casually as if it were just another ordinary morning. "Good morning," he said in a relaxed tone. His brother responded with the same calmness. "Morning." There was no tension in his voice, no sign of confrontation. If someone else were watching, they wouldn't suspect anything unusual. But I could feel it. The quiet pressure, the unspoken conversation waiting to happen. My sister soon joined us, smiling as she greeted everyone. She handed me a cup of tea and said, "You look tired. Didn't sleep well." I hesitated for a moment, then nodded lightly. "Yeah, just a little." She didn't question further. Instead, she started talking about random things, household plans, small jokes, normal conversations. I tried to focus, but my attention kept drifting back to him. Every movement, every glance felt important, as if I was trying to read signals hidden beneath his calm behavior. After a while, Guru stood up and said, "I'll be upstairs." He looked at me briefly, as if asking me to come along, but I didn't move. I didn't want to leave. Not yet. I needed to know what was going to happen. He went upstairs alone, leaving me in the room with my sister and her husband. A few minutes later, my sister got busy with something in the kitchen, and just like that, it was only the two of us left in the living room. The silence returned. He placed his cup down on the table and leaned back slightly, his eyes now fixed on me. "You seem nervous," he said casually. I tried to smile, but it didn't come naturally. "No, I'm fine," I replied, though my voice betrayed me. He gave a small, knowing look and said, "You don't have to pretend. I understand more than you think." That line made my heart skip. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to ask him directly what he meant, to end this uncertainty once and for all. But another part of me was afraid of the answer. Before I could decide, he spoke again. "Relax," he said, his tone softer now. "I told you I won't tell anyone, and I meant it." I let out a small breath, some of the tension easing from my chest. "Thank you," I said quietly. "I really appreciate it." He nodded, as if acknowledging my words, but his expression didn't change much. It was calm, controlled, almost too controlled. Then, after a brief pause, he leaned slightly forward and said, "But you remember what I said, right? About wanting something from you." My heartbeat instantly picked up again. There it was, the moment I had been dreading. I swallowed slowly and nodded. "Yes, I remember." He studied my face for a few seconds, as if trying to understand my reaction. "Good," he said, "because I don't like repeating myself." His tone wasn't harsh, but it carried a quiet seriousness that made me sit straighter. I gathered some courage and finally asked, "What do you want from me?" For a moment, he didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the staircase, making sure no one was around. Then he turned back to me and spoke in a lower voice. "Nothing wrong," he said. "Don't worry. It's not what you're thinking." His words confused me. If it wasn't something bad, then why did it feel so heavy? "I just want honesty," he continued. "From you and from Guru." I frowned slightly, not fully understanding. "Honesty," I repeated. He nodded. "Yes, whatever is going on between you two, I want you to be clear about it. Not just with me, but with yourselves too." I wasn't expecting that. For a second, I thought I had misheard him. All the fear, all the assumptions I made, none of them matched what he was saying now. "That's it," I asked quietly, still unsure. He gave a faint smile and said, "For now, yes." For now. Those words didn't bring complete relief, but they did change something inside me. The fear that had been building since last night didn't disappear, but it softened. It was no longer about something unknown and threatening. It was something I could face, something I could understand. He stood up then, picking up his empty cup. "Don't overthink everything," he said as he walked past me. Sometimes things are simpler than they seem. And with that, he left the room, heading toward the kitchen. I stayed there for a moment, processing everything. My mind felt lighter, but not completely free. There was still something unresolved, something that hadn't fully revealed itself yet. But at least now, I wasn't completely in the dark. A few minutes later, I stood up and made my way upstairs. Guru was in the room, sitting near the window, lost in his own thoughts. When he saw me, he immediately asked, "What happened? Did he say anything?" I paused for a moment, then slowly said, "Yes, he did." Guru's expression changed instantly, becoming serious again. "And?" he asked. I looked at him, taking a deep breath before answering. "It's not what we thought, but it's not over either." The silence that followed wasn't filled with fear this time, but with anticipation. Because deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. The words, "this is just the beginning," stayed in the air between us, heavier than anything we had said before. Guru looked at me closely, trying to understand every detail hidden behind my expression. "Tell me everything," he said, his voice calm but firm. I sat down across from him and slowly explained the conversation. How his brother didn't react with anger, how he promised not to tell anyone, and most importantly, how he asked for honesty instead of anything else. Guru listened without interrupting, his eyes focused, his face serious in a way I hadn't seen before. When I finished, there was a long silence. Guru leaned back slightly, thinking. "So, he knows," he finally said. It wasn't a question, it was a realization. I nodded. "Yes, and not just knows, he understands more than we expected." Guru let out a slow breath, running his hand through his hair. "That's unexpected," he admitted. "I thought things would get worse. Not like this." I looked down at my hands, still feeling a trace of nervousness. "I don't know if this is better," I said quietly. "It feels like something is still unfinished, like he's waiting." Guru didn't deny it. Instead, he said, "Maybe he is, but at least he didn't react badly. That gives us time." His way of looking at things was different, less emotional, more steady. It helped, even if it didn't solve everything. We both fell silent again, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like we were both trying to process the same situation from different angles. After a while, Guru stood up and walked toward the window. "You know," he said, looking outside, "maybe this isn't just about him. Maybe this is about us too." I looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" He turned back toward me, his expression softer now. He asked for honesty, not just with him, but with ourselves. That means we need to figure out what we really want. His words hit me in a different way. Until now, everything had been happening so fast that I hadn't even stopped to think about it properly. It was all feelings, moments, and reactions. But now, it felt like we had reached a point where we needed clarity. "What do you want?" Guru asked suddenly. The question caught me off guard. I looked at him, unsure how to answer. "I don't know," I admitted honestly. "I mean, I know how I feel when I'm with you. I feel calm, happy, understood. But beyond that, I've never thought about it seriously." Guru nodded slowly, as if he expected that answer. "Same here," he said. "I know I care about you. I know what I feel is real. But I've never planned anything beyond the moment." That realization brought a strange mix of comfort and uncertainty. We were both in the same place, feeling something real, yet not fully understanding where it could lead. For the first time, it wasn't about hiding or fear. It was about facing something deeper. "Maybe that's what he wants," I said after a moment. "Not control, not anything wrong, just clarity." Guru gave a faint smile. "Maybe," he said, "or maybe he just wants to make sure we're not confused." I looked at him and asked, "And are we?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked closer and sat beside me. "I don't think I'm confused about you," he said quietly. "I just don't know what name to give to what we have." His words felt honest, raw, and real. There was no hesitation in his tone, just a simple truth. I felt my chest tighten slightly, not from fear this time, but from emotion. "I don't need a name right now," I said softly. "I just need to know that whatever this is, it's not one-sided." Guru looked at me, and for a moment, there was nothing but silence between us. Then he said, "It's not. Just 2 words, but they meant everything. A small sense of peace settled inside me. The tension from the past night, the fear, the uncertainty. It didn't disappear completely, but it changed. It was no longer something dark and overwhelming. It became something we could face together, something we could understand step by step. Later that day, we went downstairs again. The atmosphere in the house felt normal, almost too normal compared to what we were going through internally. My sister was busy as usual, talking about random things, completely unaware of the emotional storm that had passed just a few hours ago. Her husband was there too, calm and composed, just like before. But this time, when our eyes met, I didn't feel the same level of fear. Instead, I felt something else. A quiet understanding. He didn't say anything, and neither did I. But there was a subtle acknowledgement in that moment, as if we both knew that things had changed. Not broken, just shifted. As the day went on, I started to feel a little lighter. Maybe it was because nothing had exploded the way I feared. Maybe it was because Guru and I had finally talked honestly. Or maybe it was because, deep down, I realized that not everything unknown has to be dangerous. That evening, as the sun began to set, I found myself back on the rooftop again. The same place where everything had started to change. This time, though, I wasn't alone for long. Guru joined me, standing beside me quietly. We didn't speak right away. We just looked at the sky, watching the colors slowly fade into darkness. Funny how things change in just one night, I said. Guru nodded. Yeah, but not everything changed. I looked at him. What do you mean? He smiled slightly. We're still here. That simple statement carried more meaning than anything else. And in that moment, I realized something important. Whatever was coming next, we were ready to face it. The night slowly wrapped itself around us again, just like the one before, but this time, everything felt different. The rooftop no longer carried the same innocence it once did. It had become a place of truth, fear, realization, and something deeper that neither of us could fully explain. Guru stood beside me, his presence steady, his silence comforting. For a while, neither of us spoke. It wasn't because we didn't have anything to say, but because we had already said the most important things, without even realizing it. I've been thinking, I finally said, breaking the quiet. My voice was calm, but there was a weight behind it. Guru turned slightly toward me. About, he asked. I looked out at the distant lights, gathering my thoughts. About us, about everything. What happened last night, what he said this morning, and what we said to each other. Guru didn't interrupt. He just listened, the way he always did when something truly mattered. I think we were running without understanding where we were going. I continued, not in a bad way, but we were just following our feelings without stopping to ask what they mean. Guru nodded slowly, as if he agreed. And now, he asked. I took a small breath and replied, now I think we need to move forward, but with clarity, not fear, not confusion. There was a pause. Guru stepped a little closer, resting his arms on the edge of the rooftop wall. You're right, he said after a moment, but clarity doesn't come all at once. It comes with time and choices. I looked at him. Then let's make the right choices, I said softly. Not just for ourselves, but for everything around us too. That everything didn't need to be explained. We both knew what it meant. Family, trust, relationships, and the delicate balance we were standing on. One wrong step could affect more than just us. And maybe that's what made everything feel so real now. Just then, we heard footsteps approaching from the stairs. Both of us turned at the same time. For a brief second, my heart skipped again, expecting tension, confrontation, or another unexpected moment. But this time it was different. It was him, Guru's brother. He walked onto the rooftop calmly, just like before, but there was something lighter in his expression tonight. Not distant, not observing, just present. Relax, he said as soon as he noticed our expressions. You both look like you've seen a ghost. There was a hint of humor in his tone, something that immediately eased the tension. Guru gave a small smile, while I remained quiet, unsure of what to expect next. He walked closer, standing a few steps away from us. For a moment, none of us spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable this time. It felt intentional, like he was giving us space to breathe. Then he said, I hope you thought about what I said. I nodded slowly. We did, Guru added. We understand what you meant. He looked at both of us carefully, as if trying to read our sincerity. Then he gave a slight nod. Good, he said. Because I wasn't trying to scare you. I was trying to make you think. His words felt genuine, and for the first time, I didn't feel threatened by them. I'm not against you, he continued. But I also don't want you to lose yourselves in something you don't fully understand yet. That line stayed with me. It wasn't a warning, it was guidance. A different kind of support than what I expected, but maybe exactly what we needed. I finally found the courage to speak openly. We're not confused about how we feel, I said, but we're still figuring out what it means. He nodded again, a faint smile forming on his face. That's all I wanted to hear, he replied. Guru looked at him and said, And you won't tell anyone? There was a small pause before he answered. No, he said simply. Your truth is yours to share, not mine. Those words lifted a weight off my chest that I didn't even realize I was still carrying. For a few minutes, the three of us stood there, talking, not about what happened, but about small things, normal things. And somehow, that felt more meaningful than any serious conversation. It was a quiet acceptance, an unspoken agreement that things didn't have to break just because they were complicated. Eventually, he left, heading back downstairs, leaving me and Guru alone again. But this time, the silence that followed was peaceful. I looked at Guru, and he looked back at me. There was no fear now, no confusion, just understanding. Not complete, not perfect, but enough to move forward. So, what now? Guru asked. I smiled slightly. Now, we take it one step at a time. He nodded. Together? I held his gaze and said, Together. The night continued around us, calm and steady, just like before. But we were no longer the same. We had faced something unexpected, something that could have broken us. But instead, it made us stronger, more aware, and more real. And as we stood there under the open sky, I realized this wasn't the end of our story.